but men and women, they're not like equal. Every political ideology explained in 8 minutes.
Conservatism. Conservatism, as the name suggests, tries to conserve traditional values. In Western culture, conservatives usually promote the nuclear family, organized religion, the military, and property rights. Liberalism.
I mean, although in America, at least because I live here, I'm able to know more. Conservatism, yeah, on paper, that's true, but it's more like they try to conserve their power. Like, I'm not even trying to like sound smart or anything, or like super duper intellectual. Like, no, seriously, like both parties in America suck. Okay, like they suck. But conservatives are just yeah, again, they're just kind of obsessed with just keeping the status quo. Again, conserving the status quo, of course. Why? Because with the status quo, they make their money, and America is all about making money, okay? But that's just from my perspective, right? Because, like, for instance, there's so many issues like gun laws. Like, conservatives, they want to keep gun laws the way how it is because they make a lot of bank from these gun companies. You know, that's a whole can of worms. I'm not gonna talk too much about that here. Maybe like another time. But yeah, on a piece of paper, sure, what he said is true. But when you dig deeper, you're like, conservatism has kind of shifted.
Liberalism is usually cited as the dominant ideology in modern history. It usually likes that every single individual has his own rights, that the government has to be approved by its own people, and that everyone should be treated the same way before the law. It also likes...
I mean, conservatism is all about that too. At least in America. Again, at least in America. Again, I mean, I'll let him say everything first.
Free markets, elections between multiple political parties, a separation of powers into different branches of the government, a separation of religion from the government, a set of fundamental values written in the Constitution, privacy rights, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of religion. Moderatism.
Again, I would actually have to disagree. Because you could kind of say the same thing, at least in America, for conservatism. Conservatism, because liberalism, they want to remove guns. That's not very liberal, right? they want to remove gun rights. That's kind of an oxymoron, actually, to claim to be a liberal, but you want to take away people's gun rights. Objectively speaking, I'm not like giving like my personal opinion. I'm just saying, like, objectively speaking. Conservatism, at least in America, again, I don't know how it's like in Europe. Conservatism would also try to preserve American values as well, like freedom of speech, press. Again, you're conserving all of those original American ideals, right? Although you could look at it and say, well, no, actually, even the conservatives in America, ironically enough, wanted to abolish slavery, but it was actually the liberals who wanted it gone. Actually, African Americans were, when they were free from slavery, they actually supported conservatism a lot. They were like that, like for a long time. Actually, it wasn't until like kind of recently that changed, because the liberals and the Democrats realized, like, yo, we got to get the African American vote, so we got to like switch our stance, right? Also, Democrats, the so-called liberals, they supported segregation. I know a lot of conservatives did as well. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just pointing that out. Again, this is for America, because I live in America. For my country, things are a bit different, right? Because conservatism, for example, when we used to be a monarchy, conservatives would obviously, advocate to conserve the monarchy, whilst liberalism would try to abolish the monarchy. And funny enough, the liberals had complete control over parliament in 2021, because what would be by definition a conservative party was so unpopular at the time that they were completely voted out of parliament. And the liberals used that power to completely undemocratically just abolish a monarchy without anybody having a say. So again, I don't know. It really depends on what country you're in, because conservative, it could have like a lot of definitions. Quite frankly, all right, let me stop yapping.
Moderatism likes to stay within what is called the Overton window, which is the range of policies politically acceptable to the mainstream population. In most cases, moderates are apolitical, which means that they don't care, but they have a little bit of knowledge about politics. Capitalism.
Okay.
Capitalism is an...
I also view moderate. I mean, this is me personally speaking, giving my own opinion. I think moderate, you could also be a moderate. Like, for example, you could be left leaning, but you're like moderate with that. You're not like an extremist left wing, right? Same thing with right wing. Like, for example, Europe and its immigration issue. You could be a moderate on that. You could look at it and be like, well, I don't like immigration coming to my country. However, I think we should, not take an extreme stance on it. I'm just giving that example, right? Because most people, they're completely extreme. They have a completely extreme stance on immigration in Europe. Again, this is all completely objective. I'm not really giving an opinion. A, because I want my video to be monetized. Probably not really going to get any money, but whatever. And B, I don't want YouTube thinking that I'm stirring up trouble. Okay, so again, I'm just saying you could be a moderate and still support something. Like, again, abortion is another thing too. You could be a moderate on that, right? Extremists, right? Very far right wing people, they would say just completely ban it, right? Again, I'm being objective. Okay, this is not my opinion. They would just say ban it, completely ban it, right? Even in extreme circumstances where the lady gets forced upon and she gets a kid because of that, they'll still say no, ban it, right? You could be a moderate and still say, well, I don't support it, but I support it in extreme cases. All right, let's continue.
Economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. The central characteristics of capitalism are private property, free exchange, competition, division of labor, and social cooperation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Capitalism, America isn't really capitalist anymore. America's like corporatism or something like that. Right, that's why everything sucks now. It's just big tech corporations that completely dominate the country. Right, so people are saying capitalism is bad. I don't think genuine capitalism is bad, but what we have in America, yeah, it's not capitalism, pal.
Socialism. There are many types of socialism, making this an umbrella term. In the classical sense, socialism describes worker-owned means of production, heavily supporting worker coups, democratic self-management, and workplace democracy. Socialism in the modern age advocates workers' democratic self-management, high taxation on the wealthy, and nationalization of key parts of industry. One of its key values is social ownership. Syndicalism.
And, I think socialism, people always usually teach that socialism is like you're on your way to become communist, right? But honestly, I think socialism is a sweet spot, right? Growing up in Barbados, the government, the left-wing government anyways, Barbados did have socialist tendencies. The parties did have socialist tendencies like welfare and all that. And because of my experience with that, I don't have such a negative view on socialism, right? Because at least in Barbados anyways, it's like if you didn't have a job or you weren't making enough money, you could just go apply for welfare and the government would actually be able to supplement you quite well, actually. A lot of people, that might be news to some people because some people think that the Caribbean is like poor or whatever, although some parts of it is. But I'm just saying, from my experience of dealing with socialist tendencies, hell, even the parties in my country, both of them are called labor parties, right? That screams socialism. So especially the Barbados Labour Party. So I don't have a bad view on it. I'm not like brainwashed by it, right? Americans are quite brainwashed when it comes to that. They're quite brainwashed by anti-Soviet propaganda since the Cold War, anti-communist propaganda. They hear the word socialism and they think, oh my gosh, so bad, right? That's why Bernie Sanders didn't win the election, because he was actually a good candidate. Probably the best candidate out of Trump or like Biden, in my personal opinion. But Americans heard the word socialism and they think, oh my gosh, communism bad, so they didn't vote for him, right? Also because of the whole increased taxation and whatnot, even though taxes are kind of ridiculous in America already. So
Syndicalism is the son of socialism, and it believes that unionization of the workforce, the establishment of local, decentralized revolutionary worker organizations called syndicates, and advancement of workers' demands through the use of strikes and direct action are the best methods by which a socialist society should be achieved. Once a post-capitalist society is achieved, a congress or commune of syndicates would be created to represent the many unions or areas of the economy for a central government. Corporatism.
before we talk about corporatism, which is what America is, I mean, sounds good on paper. Actually, I do believe that Americans, because I live here, yeah, they do need to demand like actual better rights. Like, everybody knows how horrendous the job market is in America. Everybody's talking about how they don't want to work a 9 to 5, blah blah blah. Sorry, I'm sick. But it's like, okay, everybody knows that job market sucks, 9 to 5 sucks. Okay, what are we gonna do? Okay, nobody's doing anything. People are complaining, but nobody's doing anything. Like, people actually need to start getting involved in, like, politics and stuff, and actually like start advocating for better, just better means of living, right? Jeez, it's literally. I think these companies would actually start waking up, quite frankly speaking, man.
Corporatism advocates the organization of society in different areas of employment, like agriculture, military, engineering, etc., which people get assigned to based on their interests and skills. It believes in a cross-class system of regulation in which the workers, employers, and state negotiate with one another in order to most efficiently run the economy and satisfy, in theory, all parties involved.
Yeah. That's literally exactly how America is. Like, seriously.
It does not refer to a political system dominated by large business interests. That would be a corporatocracy.
Corporatocracy. Okay. I mean, still though, yes, America is a corporatocracy. That's the more accurate word. But still though, America would be a corporatism. Because think about it. I think anyone living in America could absolutely relate to what he just said, with the whole government and the company and the employer all agreeing on, employer with a skill, right? Because, what are you raised to do in America, right? Or quite frankly, anywhere, go to college. You need to go to college, get a skill. Because if you don't have a skill, you're going to have a dirt job, blah, 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 right? So, no, this 100% describes America right now.
Libertarianism. Libertarianism upholds liberty as a core value, and it seeks to maximize autonomy and political freedom. It likes a very limited government. It believes in the same principles of liberalism, such as equality before the law and the basic rights to life, liberty, and property. Separatism.
Libertarians are a joke in America. I think they should get more love, to be honest, but people in America find them to be joke. I personally think that they should get more attention.
Separatism, also commonly known as secessionism, seeks to establish a nation, country, sovereign state, or government that is separate from an already existing nation. Communism. Communism is centered around common ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange that allocates products to everyone in society based on need. A communist society doesn't have private property, social classes, money, or the state. Feminism.
No, again, communism, right? A lot of people just do not understand communism, especially Americans. Right. So okay, I had to pull back this video a bit. But communism, again, people really misunderstand communism because they're like brainwashed by this anti-Soviet propaganda, Cold War propaganda, especially in America. A lot of people just do not understand like the whole idea of communism, right? The main thing that is funny is people who kind of understand communism. They'll be like, it sounds great on paper, but in practice, it's horrible. And my rebuttal to that is very simple, right? I never really heard anyone that could really and truly like debunk this rebuttal of mine. I always say, okay, you can say the same thing about capitalism, right? You literally can. You literally can. Like on paper, capitalism seems great, but look at what happened to America. America turned into a freaking corporatocracy, right? And that's this argument that people literally use for communism. Like, oh, communism's great, but you'll get a dictatorship or something bad out of it, right? Or communism is great until, millions of people start dying. Even though in America, capitalism in America is causing millions of people to die, right? Because of healthcare issues. Dude, I literally just got back from the doctor and I don't even have health insurance, right? So it's like, they're like, oh, you have to pay out of pocket because you don't have health insurance. So my bill is probably gonna be like, I don't know, a couple $1,000s, like unironically, like a couple thousand USD because, they have health insurance, right? And that's a big issue. Is like health insurance is so icky in America. Millions of people unironically die because of health insurance and how health insurance companies. I mean, did you not see what happened with the whole CEO in New York, right? Why do you think everyone's praising the guy who, went and oofed that CEO in New York? Because like that's how bad it is. Everybody knows that guy was responsible for millions of people, millions of deaths by denying their health claim coverage, right? That's a part of capitalism, right? You see my point, right? So you can't really go and say, but my communism seems good on paper, but when in actual reality, it's actually bad. But then go and be like, capitalism's so great. Meanwhile, we have a homeless crisis in America because of capitalism. Funny enough, actually, commie blocks, which typically have a bad rep. Freaking hell, I hate talking basic. Commie blocks, which typically have a bad rep in Eastern Europe, objectively speaking, they were actually good because, again, Europe was in literal rubble from World War II. There was a lot of people were homeless, and commie blocks were cheap, easy, and fast to build. And they actually did solve the homeless issue in Eastern Europe at the time. So at the time, objectively speaking, they were good, right? But no, people get them a bad rep because, they don't look good. Aesthetically speaking, they don't look good, right? But no, objectively speaking, they did what they were supposed to do, right? Anyways, that's just a few things that I just want to point out with communism is like, I wouldn't call myself a communist, but like, I would, I wouldn't give it too much hate, right? Because capitalism isn't really any better of sorts. All right, let's stop rambling.
Date. Feminism. Feminism aims to define and establish the political, economic, personal, and social equality of the sexes. It holds the position that societies prioritize the male point of view and that women are treated unjustly in these societies. Efforts to change this include fighting against gender stereotypes and improving educational and professional opportunities for women.
There's this lovely lady. I was like 8th grade. She was like 8th grade year of school. I was like 13, I think. She was like around the same age. And I mean, she knew it. She knew it all good. She was not about that whole feminism thing. She was probably neurodivergent. I mean, I'm probably neurodivergent as well. Not like it's a bad thing. But she had enough of a brain to like Don't get me wrong. Some parts of feminism is necessary. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But, I mean, she perfectly said it well. Like, the reason why women supported the whole staying at home with their kids is because, well, it was safer, right? It was the best thing for them, right? Because as a man, back then, that's why obviously the gender roles became what they were, because the man was quite literally risking his life. It wasn't until very recently that has changed, right? And oh, lo and behold, what a coincidence that as soon as life started getting better, right? Now the women are like, oh, we need equal rights now. Yeah. Oh, life is getting better. Oh, yes, feminism. Am I right, folks? But seriously though, also this is not why feminism, at least in America anyways, took root. If I had to be quite honest and objective with you, feminism actually started because women wanted to, I'm not going to say that word out loud, just look at the camera, just look at the video and see what I'm doing. They wanted to do this a lot more. They wanted Chad and Tyrone, if I had to make that as a joke. Seriously, you could go look that up, right? I'm not gonna talk too much about this here, but I could honestly talk about this a lot, right? But yeah, it's funny because men also allowed feminism to even like take root, take shape. Men were the ones who allowed this to happen anyways. Like, men were just completely docile to it. Like, if men really wanted to, men could easily just shut that down. That would absolutely gone nowhere. Again, I'm not advocating for it. I'm just objectively saying like what happened, right? But yeah, feminism, it was like most women actually wanting to stay at home when, you know, being out and working was way worse and way more risky at your life until very recently. Although I do believe that yes, you know, women are just as capable as men, like, or should I say women can be as capable as men, so there should be equal opportunity and equal rights for them to expand upon that, of course. But quite frankly speaking, today anyways, a lot of these women who claim to be feminists, they're not actual feminists. They're just posers, quite frankly speaking, because they'll want traditional gender norms when it benefits them, but actual feminist ideals, when you put that into practice, they like run away, right? Like 50-50 or child support, which some women actually do have to pay child support. It's kind of uncommon, but usually when a woman is making more than a man, yes, she is usually able, she has to pay child support. But there are some cases where feminism is necessary, like this one example where companies will purposely not hire women because women would tend to get pregnant and they would be forced to get paid on leave, right? So what companies would do is they will purposely not hire women. That is an actual like issue, like an actual problem there, that feminism, like genuine feminism, is actually like needed for, right? But anyways, I'm not gonna yap about this too much. I can honestly yap about a lot of these ideologies, but I'm not gonna talk about that here. This is actually quite an entertaining video. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Anarchism. Anarchism is an ideology that advocates for a society without rulers or constituted authority, with a focus on the notion of freedom. It advocates for the replacement of the state with stateless societies and voluntary free associations. Environmentalism.
Basically, you're an idiot if you support anarchism, right? Because anarchism is basically, you know, if you want to go and pull up at someone and, you know, go... Literally, if you want to go unalive somebody, it's like, who is there to stop you, right? Oh my gosh, dude! Like no, like you're like I cannot defend anarchism. Like,
Environmentalism, sometimes called green politics, is a term used to represent a range of ideologies that fall under the belief that nature should be a significant factor in deciding public policy, be it increasing recycling, decreasing CO2 emissions, stopping water pollution, etc. Populism.
yeah, my country is like that. Due to the fact that Barbados, which is my country, of course, if you're new to my channel, is an island, is roughly as long as Manhattan. It's like 1 mile longer than Manhattan. It is wider than Manhattan though. It's mostly below sea level, and because of this, yes, government policy does very much rest upon climate change, sea levels, all of that. Like, yes, because if climate change gets too bad, then the country would go underwater, quite frankly speaking. Funny enough, we used to have a small island at the coast of Barbados called Pelican Island, and it's now underwater, unfortunately. But yeah.
It focuses on appealing to a large number of people and their sensibilities, believing that what the masses want must be what the masses get. It can take on many forms, as its only requirement is that it represents a movement by the people for the people. This causes it to have no real political affiliation. It's often associated with democracies due to its reliance on popular support. It often divides the people from the elite, and it's frequently anti-establishment and anti-politics. Republicanism. Republicanism,
I guess that's like direct democracy.
is an ideology centered around a system of government that is non-hereditary and, in opposition to monarchism, gives political power to its citizens in a state organized as a republic. Progressivism.
But he didn't explain what a republic is. A republic is a place where people are represented, right? Throwback to my ancient Rome in 20 minutes reaction that I did months ago last year in 2024, where I learned that republic literally translates to public thing, right? So although I would rather direct democracy rather than a republic, because I think that whole idea of you have one person to represent thousands if not millions of people, nah, bad idea.
Progressivism says that heritage that stems from the past is not to be held sacred and should instead be viewed as less important than societal progress. It's basically the opposite of conservatism. Imperialism.
Yeah. We do need progressivism, but we do need conservatism as well. You need to balance them out. You need to balance them out. You do. Going back to the former British Caribbean, well, it's still called the British Caribbean, but most of the countries are independent from the British Caribbean now. So I should probably just say English Caribbean or Anglophone Caribbean or maybe Commonwealth Caribbean. There's a whole bunch of names that you can honestly call that region. But I will just say, for the sake of this video, the former British Caribbean, now English Caribbean. You know, a lot of people were arguing about the whole, should we keep the monarch, right? The British monarch as head of state. That's a big deal down there, right? I know there's different parts of the world have their own issues, and down there, that's a big deal because of the whole, they're like, why do we have these people of head of state? Because the whole issue of slavery, which in my opinion is stupid. If you're truly progressive, it's like you should not be complaining about slavery in 2025, but too many people still do. But they're like, oh, we should move on and be progressive and just ditch the monarchy, right? Completely ditch the monarchy. Now, me being a conservative of that, I support the monarchy because the monarchy is like a safeguard and it creates stability. political stability as well as internal stability in the country, right? If anything really hits the fan, you have the monarch there. And not just that, but due to the fact that you're in a personal union with England, you are automatically somewhat safeguarded from foreign intervention, right? Except if you're a country like America. Funny enough. Invasion of Grenada in 1983 or 1984, forgot. Operation Urgent Fury. America illegally invaded Grenada, which has the monarchy. It is in a personal union with England and the rest of the other realms, Commonwealth realms, which also share the monarch as well, which share the same British monarchy. They're all individual monarchs, but they do share the same monarch. And for the sake of making you understand, I'm just going to say British monarch, right? But yes, Britain was absolutely did not like that, did not like what America did. In fact, Ronald Reagan literally had to call Margaret Thatcher at the time and apologize for invading a Commonwealth realm because that was a British problem, because that was technically speaking under British power, somewhat British jurisdiction, somewhat. It's very wonky how that whole system works with the whole Commonwealth realm thing. It's like, yes, we are independent countries, but due to the fact that we share the same monarch and ruler, we are somewhat together. We're like we it's like you have loose strings, right? But they're all together, right? But yeah, I'm just saying. Again, down there, it's a big deal of whether or not people should keep the British monarchy. I think Jamaica wanted to abolish the monarchy as well, although I personally think that would be a horrible idea. Again, me being a conservative, because Jamaica is already a corrupted country. Ever since it became independent from Britain, it has completely declined somewhat. I saw a recent post from Jamaica saying that 50 or 60% of Jamaicans saying that they would rather be a colony, or that life was much better when Jamaica was a British colony. And it's why would you want to abolish a monarchy, right? You still have the British monarch there. Why would you want to abolish it? No, you need to be conservative and keep that, or unless the country's, it's just going to get worse, right? But okay, let me start rambling on about progressivism. I was just throwing out some examples there and just giving some personal remarks, about these ideals. But yes, you do need a balance of both. Going back to the whole monarchy thing, Barbados abolished the monarchy, and now it's a de facto dictatorship, right? It's anything bad could happen now because what the government did was way too progressive, way too fast, right? Now the country's exposed, quite frankly speaking, and that's the problem with progressivism. It can go too far. Yes, you do need to progress. Yes, you do need to progress, but you gotta you can't go above and beyond. Same thing with conservatism. Using China as an example, the reason why China got colonized by Europeans was because it was just too conservative, didn't really feel the need to go and expand because it had everything that it needed, and it became backward. And the Europeans, which hilariously enough was progressive, went and eventually came to dominate China until recently. Let's continue.
Imperialism has traditionally believed a country should expand its power or influence through military action. It was once very popular, and it was basically considerable as moderatism, but it has decreased in popularity over the years. Imperialism is noted for its war advocacy and belief that the powerful nations should rule over the weaker ones. It usually defends himself against accusations of oppression by insisting that colonized people benefit because the richer nations help them and give them things they couldn't get normally.
I wouldn't really say colonized people. Just say imperialize, right? That's an actual word. No, because colonialism is a whole different thing. I've talked about that way too many times on my different videos, especially my Islam reaction videos. I don't feel like repeating myself again. Let's continue.
Egalitarianism. Egalitarianism is a school of thought that builds on the concept of social equality, prioritizing it for all people. As such, all citizens of a state should be accorded equal rights and treatment under the law. Transhumanism.
Basically, Scandinavian countries. I see so many men who say, "Oh, I want a Scandinavian girl. I want a Scandinavian girl." Yeah, until you realize how extremely egalitarian they are, right? Now I'm actually just talking about my own personal opinion. Like, I would never go for a Scandinavian girl, because they are way too egalitarian. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'm sorry, but like, I personally believe that yes, men and women should have equal opportunity, but men and women, they're not like equal. Not in the sense of like women can't get equal opportunity. No, I believe that men are, objectively speaking, more capable, and because of that, objectively speaking, they're not equal to women, objectively speaking, right? They're stronger, taller, again, you could list a whole bunch. I don't even need to list things out. Anyone with a brain would be able to accept that. That's just how it is in biology. That's how it is in nature. Every race of animals, there's a gender that is typically objectively better than their counterpart, right? I know in some species of animals, it's the females that are better than the males, right? It's just that in the case of humans, that would be males. So yeah, I'm not just saying a whole bunch of rubbish. Again, I'm keeping this as objective as possible, really and truly. Like, don't get me wrong, I have some biases, but I would admit that I'm being biased, or I would just look at you and say, okay, I'm just saying my personal opinion right now, right? But yeah, let's continue.
Transhumanism believes that everyone should upgrade themselves with technology to overcome both the most basic and most...
And you know what's funny is, speaking of egalitarianism, due to the fact that those Scandinavian countries were way too like egalitarian, way too progressive, actually going back to progressivism, they're like suffering from the whole migrant problem. Because I remember like a few years ago, actually 5 years ago, something like that, they were way like willing to take in refugees, right? And I remember Donald Trump, actually, he literally, like, I was watching this, he was at the UN or something. This is when Trump was president. He literally warned Sweden. He looked at Sweden and said, "You are taking in too much migrants. It is going to become a problem." And they all laughed at him, right? This is back when laughing at Donald Trump and making fun of him was the trendy thing to do, right? Was the political correct thing to do. And now look at it. Now they're suffering. Now they want to be all, oh, save Europe. Oh, keep my white blonde women pure. All of that nonsense, right? And it's like, really? Like, where was his energy when you were laughing at Trump like a couple of years back, right? Literally. Right? And now you want to be all too progressive and whatnot, I mean, that's what you get, really and truly. There should be a lesson to be taught there to those Scandinavian countries, bruh.
Most complex of humanity's challenges. The ultimate objective is for all people to reach immortality and an incredibly advanced mind and body.
Okay, that's just
Communitarianism
rubbish.
is an ideology that emphasizes the well-being of and the importance of the community as the primary social unit. It will typically stress the idea that the left-right binary of politics is holding politics back, as well as argue that policies from both sides of the spectrum are complementary and necessary to benefit the community. It believes that absolute individualism is harmful when it contradicts the common good. Authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is a form of government characterized by a strong power, which is usually central, that demands obedience to authority and limited political and civil freedoms. For example, most classic monarchies are a form of authoritarianism. The ruler of an authoritarian country imprisons and persecutes its opponents. Fascism.
Right. So authoritarianism, that's a very interesting one. I believe that authoritarian regimes can work. Yes. In my personal opinion, it can work. It can work, right? I've actually talked about this before in a few of my videos, but it's like authoritarian regimes have shown to work before. And again, you might be asking, but what about the civil liberties? What about the freedoms and whatnot? It's like, yes, there is that variable. However, my rebuttal to that would be very simply put, when you push people to the limit, right? And every dictator knows this, you cannot push people to the limit, because when you give people this idea of, I have nothing to lose, you have a big problem on your hands there. And every single authoritarian government knows that. Usually what authoritarian governments try to do is just give the idea, like give the illusion that no, you cannot do nothing, because they know very much so if the people know or realize that they can do something, that's problematic, right? So no, authoritarian governments are honestly at the mercy of the people when you really and truly think about it. Case in point would be Russia. People tend to criticize how it's authoritarianism, but no, Putin is not an idiot. He very much keeps track of how the average Russian person feels and how they're thinking, especially around Moscow. This is why you're not really seeing people from Moscow getting drafted to go to Ukraine, because he knows that if those people there get upset, that would be very problematic for him. That would put his power at risk, right? He also uses elections as well. People think elections in Russia are just completely useless, pointless, because we all know who's going to win. But he actually uses election to keep track of basically how do the people feel, right? It's like his elections are basically like his like monitor of how do the people feel. Like, do they feel high on rest right now? Is the meter like super high? And trust me, Russian people are so smart at this. I gotta give credit where credit is due. They're so smart at this, at expressing like their opinions and whatnot, right? And he very much knows that, right? Okay, so they were quite ingenious at that. So no, people think elections in Russia are useless. No, they're actually they're basically just there to make sure Putin is not going too far with his shenanigans, okay? Because if he did completely ban elections and he just did any and everything that he wanted, yeah, no, he would be quickly gone, okay?
Fascism says that people are weak divided, but strong united under the banner, whether that banner be of a state, nation, army, or anything of the like. It is authoritarian, which means that it's characterized by a controlling government that rejects the idea that people can vote between multiple parties. It involves a strong central power, which usually refers to a dictator, so it rejects separation of power. Fascism is also ultranationalist, which is the belief that a nation shouldn't care about other nations' rights as long as it benefits itself. Ultranationalism usually coexists with militarism, which is the idea that a nation should have a powerful enough military to expand national interests and values. Fascism suppresses opposition using forceful methods. It believes in a natural social hierarchy, and it promotes the refusal of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation or race. Nazism. Nazism is a form of fascism with a focus on its racist
Demonetized.
ideology,
Demonetized. Oh my, I was already pushing the limit of this video. Demonetized.
which says that the Aryan race is superior.
Oh my
It believes
gosh.
that the Aryan race
Oh gosh, YouTube, please. I know your AI is going to be looking at this transcript. Yo, let me tell you something. I posted a video about the crusade, right? And when I was reacting to that, the People's Crusade, and it was talking about how they were targeting the Hebrews. I don't want to say the J word. Kisraelites, those people, the Hewish religion, but with a J. Bro, freaking YouTube legit demonetized a video because they thought that it was like something super controversial, because the freaking transcript had something completely different.
Should rule the rest of the world to make it better, thus being ultra-nationalist. To be classified as an Aryan by the Nazis, you have to be white, straight, mentally and physically able, non-cowardice, and non-Jewish. If you are considered non-Aryan, you are called
demonetized.
Untermensch, which means subhuman.
Oh my
It also
gosh.
likes eugenics, a set of beliefs and practices that aim to improve the genetic quality of a human population. For that,
I do kind of believe in eugenics. I sort of believe in eugenics. I believe that. I actually talked about this, and a few people called me insane on my channel a long time ago. This is before I had a lot of subscribers, but I did believe that. Yes, some form of this is absolutely necessary. I'm not going to elaborate on this because I don't want this video might get demonetized or just taken down.
For that reason, people with inherited disorders are considered useless eaters and were killed or sent to camps on sight, as they were regarded as life unworthy of life.
I would say something, but again, I don't want this video to get taken out.
Nazism also hates homosexuals, considering them Untermensch as well. I'll be making similar videos. Subscribe to see them.
Oh gosh. Demonetized. Golly, man, I need to make my money. Look, man, you made it all the way to the end of the video. If you have any suggestions for me, like this video, go comment it down below. Go check out my other reactions on my channel, man. I mean, this is actually a wonderful video to react to. I get to express a lot of my opinions. All right, man. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.